The Stanley Cup playoffs are back today. And I have to say, if there's one good thing about the Maple Leafs not making the playoffs, it's that I get to sit back and just watch great hockey. And there are several compelling matchups in this year's postseason. So today, we're going to break it all down. I'm going to start by telling you the series I'm most excited to see. Then we're going to go through a breakdown of each of the 8 playoff series, and I'll give you my predictions. And then I'm going to give you my Stanley Cup finalists. This is The Morning Whistle. My name is Aaron Rome. There are several compelling matchups in this year's first round. Here are the top 3 I'm looking forward to watching. Number 1, the Habs versus the Lightning. This will be an explosive series between 2 Atlantic Division rivals. And of course, playoff hockey in Montreal is always outstanding. The Bell Center is going to be rocking. Number 2, we have the Boston Bruins versus the Buffalo Sabres. This is going to be heavy, this is going to be physical, and in Buffalo's return to postseason action after 14 years, expect a lot of energy in Buffalo. And then number 3, Dallas versus Minnesota. This will feature 2 of the best teams in the league. Quite frankly, it's simply conference final caliber. I'm expecting this one to go the distance. So with that, let's go through our breakdown of all 8 series, and I'll give you my predictions. Starting in the East, we'll go with the Penguins versus the Flyers, and I have the Penguins in 6. Sidney Crosby is back in the dance, and I don't just think he's here to take part. There is a clear age gap and experience gap between these 2 teams. The Pens' top 6 point producers are all over 30. The Flyers' top producers are all under 30. But I like the Pens because of their depth of scoring. They had 9 players this year with at least 16 goals. And I think the calming presence of their defense, specifically Erik Karlsson and Chris Letang, will really make the difference for them in these tight moments. Next, we have the Carolina Hurricanes against the Ottawa Senators. And I have the Sens in 6. Here's my thought. I really don't think the Canes are that different from the Matthews-era Leafs. They always come short when it matters. And I don't see that changing this year. They brought in Nick Ehlers, and he had a great season, but his 9 career playoff goals in 45 games is not exactly what they need. Meanwhile, Ottawa has 2 big advantages for me. One is in the faceoff dot. We know Claude Giroux is still a beast there, and in goal. Despite all the questions about Allmark, I think he's going to be locked in, and I like the Sens. Next, Sabres and Bruins, and I told you I was really pumped for this one. I have Boston in 7. There's no doubt that the Sabres are youthful, fast, and strong. And Tage Thompson and Alex Tuch are beasts on their day. And they have some size and strength in Josh Jones. The thing for me with Boston is the X factors they have in Jeremy Swayman, who I think can steal some games, and David Pastrnak. It will be a slog, and I think it'll be really tough, but I think that those 2 players are each going to steal games for Boston, and that will ultimately put them over the top in a tight series. And then last, Habs versus Lightning. I have Habs in 6. While some will see the Habs in inexperienced, I look at it differently. Last year, they got a taste of postseason action going up against the Capitals, and they got bodied around. But they've matured a lot since then. Remember, Demidov had just come into the playoffs. He has now a full season under his belt. Same thing for Kapanen. And Nick Suzuki got experience this year that was invaluable, playing in the Olympic final, which is an even higher level than what he will see in the NHL playoffs. And yes, I think the Habs will miss Noah Dobson, but the Lightning don't have their captain, Victor Hedman. And I don't think people are appreciating how much of a loss that will be. Now let's go into the West. Avs versus Kings. I think this is pretty straightforward. I have the Avalanche in 4. Based on what I saw from Darcy Kemper against the Maple Leafs a week ago, I think Colorado is just going to be firing the net at every chance. And I think LA is going to be hanging on for their life. I simply think this is going to be a matter of how many games can this team get, if any at all. It'll be quick. Then the Wild and Stars. And I said this was going to be the closest series, and I have the Wild in 7. This, to me, is going to be tight, but I think the X factor will be injuries. Finnish duo for the Stars, Miro Heiskanen and Roope Hintz are both question marks. We know Roope Hintz is going to miss the start of the playoffs. Heiskanen potentially game 1 as well. Minnesota is largely injury-free. Quinn Hughes has an illness. That's not going to stop him from playing. And I think those margins will matter. And Minnesota's depth, I think, is where they shine with a player like Vladimir Tarasenko. And I also think this is Kirill Kaprizov's time. Again, Jake Ottinger could make it close. And I love Wyatt Johnston, but Wild in 7. Next, we have the Ducks and the Oilers. I have Oilers in 5. It's been a great season for the Ducks. And Cutter Gauthier and Leo Carlsson really have a bright future. But it's early. And they are defensively sloppy. We saw Connor McDavid take over at the end of the season. That's not going to stop. And Leon Draisaitl will be back. That will make it too hard for the Ducks. And then last, the Golden Knights versus the Utah Mammoth. And I have Vegas in 6. While it has been a mediocre season for them, they come into the playoffs on a 7-0-1 run. Torts has them focused, and we know they have the experience. Of course, it will be interesting to see how Mitch Marner performs. We all know his record for the Leafs, but playing for Team Canada at the Four Nations and at the Olympics, we saw him come up clutch. And I actually expect that one of these games will go to overtime and Mitch Marner will either be the scorer or the setup man. To recap, we have Pittsburgh in 6, Ottawa in 6, Boston in 7, Montreal in 6, Colorado in 4, Minnesota in 7, Edmonton in 5, and Vegas in 6. What am I projecting for the Stanley Cup Final? Well, I have the Avalanche versus the Penguins. That's right, I am predicting a Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia Bowl. And for me, it comes down to 2 factors. For the Avalanche, we know they faltered in recent years in the playoffs, but with Nazem Kadri, Brock Nelson, their center depth is really strong, and Landeskog is ready to go. The last time he was fully healthy, they won the cup. And meanwhile, I think the East is wide open. And if there's ever a time for Sidney Crosby to make one more run, this screams the place. I also love some of the moves Kyle Dubas made. Are there any picks you disagree with? Let me know. But I cannot wait for this thing to get started. Aaron Arona, Morning Whistle.